Focus. Awesome. Glad you're finding it helpful. Okay, so again, open corners. I'll do a 4-4. I don't think I've done a lot of 4-4s yet, or if at all. So I'll do a 4-4. That's fine. And not that big of a deal. Okay, they do that. I'm going to do a 3-4. It's also a knight's move, so I kind of like it. It's a nice little combination. Yeah, it's not the end of the world. It's not common. It's not like the most ideal move on the 9x9. But it's one of our opening moves, and it's still the similar shapes that we're going to learn on the big board. And I want to be consistent with our basics. So it's why I usually don't do the 9x9. It's not my favorite, but it is technically one of our basics. So he's pushing, so I'm going to block immediately. Yeah, welcome to the Go world. Going to read this cut. So watch your cutting points. He plays, I push to the edge. He goes down, I block. And we just watch these, but this one has escape routes and he doesn't, so we should be perfectly fine to push him to the edge here. Yeah, when they try to go in, the reading that you're trying to develop is pushing them to the edge. That is how you think about it. Push them to the edge. Now, if I push to the edge and he cuts, I'm actually okay because I'm pushing not to the edge, so he doesn't really have the liberties to fight this. But if I was worried about it, I would just fix here and keep him trapped. That's also fine. But since this is a sequence that we need to learn, like, I understand if you get scared and fix here, that's also fine. But you need to learn how to push him to the edge. Just watch this cutting point. Make sure it doesn't run into a blackstone somewhere. So as long as I watch this and there's no blackstone right here, I'm good. And this is a sequence that we do need to learn. This is, again, more examples for you to learn. It's okay if you don't play it perfectly in your game. Just learn them, and you'll gain experience as you go. So he turns, and I block. Same sequence we've been talking about. It's the same sequence. Same sequence. Okay, I'm an Atari, so I run. Now I have 2 liberties and 2 liberties. As soon as he does anything else that doesn't take a liberty, I can just capture. So he Ataris, so I run, capturing race, and you see how I'm okay. And so I can just capture the stone. And now I'm connected, and it's all fine and dandy. And he actually has a chance. He actually has a setup to win this game. I don't know if he'll do it, but even if he wins this game because he has more points, I don't care. I'm more worried about I made a position, I watched my cutting points, I'm not dying, I have points, so I don't care. I've done my basics. I didn't miss an Atari. I didn't get cut off. I surrounded him and pushed him to the edge when he cut into mine. I did my basics. I'm ready to move up to the 13/13. Even if I lose this game, I don't care. We're learning the basics right now. We're not trying to win perfectly. And I guarantee you, if you do your basics, you're going to win like probably more than half your games. You're not going to win them all, okay? But once you do the basics and you do them right like every single time, then you're going to win some games. But don't worry if you lose some. That's okay. Losing is like really good. It's a good learning experience. It's you're going to lose and go. All right, so he does this. So I'm going to check my liberties 1, 2, 3 to 1, 2. So my liberties are okay. Is there any cutting points? Not really. So I could easily capture this, but he's already surrounded. And like I said, if I don't do anything, if I keep responding, I don't know. I don't know what the basic is here. I don't have to do anything technically. This doesn't do anything to me, so I don't know what the basic here is. All right, so check my cutting points. So check my liberties first. I'm good. Check my cutting points. I'm not getting cut anywhere because these 3 stones are the cutting stones and they're dead, as long as I have more than 2 liberties. So I'm okay. So I guess my next basic is check his cutting points. So this stone wants to connect down, so I would cut it off here. There's a cutting point here. There's a cutting point here. This one's a very simple one, and it also gains me more liberties and walks into his. So I'm probably going to go here. Just check his cutting points next. Have a good night, Saren. So yeah, my cutting points, his cutting points. And this seems pretty simple. If he doesn't make the points, then I should win this game. But if he makes points, he has a chance to win. But if he keeps trying to fight without liberties, yeah, this is how you win the game. So he has 2 liberties, but just trap them against the edge. Just trap them against the edge. That's how you deal with stuff. And don't miss Ataris. Don't miss liberty problems. Yep. And these are the sequences that you're supposed to learn. So if you don't master these in your first couple games, that's okay. Just practice, 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 practice. If you are struggling with your opponent's liberties and your liberties, learn your liberties first. Your weakness, your liberties, your cutting points comes first. Then, when you have the freedom to say, I don't have any problems, then you can look at your opponent's cutting points. And that's what I just did there. So I was like, count my liberties, I'm ahead. Look at my cutting points, I'm fine. No cutting points. So now I have the freedom to do something else, and I looked at my opponent's cutting points. But I did it in the right order. All right, so do I have any cutting points? No, I'm fine everywhere. Does he have any cutting points? No, he fixed. Okay, so open sides. There is maybe an open side, so I can just play that. That is a knight's move, so maybe I want to play diagonal, but this one should be fine. But if I'm worried, let's say I'm worried. Let's say I don't play perfectly. I just play diagonal. Whatever. Who cares? We're not going to play perfectly. So I just play an open side. Right? After that, it's just push the borders. Just push the borders. Maybe I'm worried about my liberties because I want to keep these dead. Okay? So now I'm going to push the borders. So I can play a Hana here because that cutting point doesn't work. I can play a 1 point jump. Yeah, we haven't talked about a 1 point jump a lot. Let's play a 1 point jump. 1 point jumps. If they play inside, you can cut them to the edge, or you can connect under. We can push the border here. Oh, watch our cutting point. Does it work? Let's find out. So if he cuts, I Atari, he goes down. I'm in Atari, so that one can't do. So there's a second one, so I push to this edge. A little bit further, so this is our second choice. But if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, right? So I Atari this way, he goes down. I block, he turns. This stone's an Atari, so I connect. 1, 2, 3 to 1, 2. So I'm okay. But like I said, maybe you don't play perfectly, and I am getting a bit ahead of this guy, so I'm gonna say I don't play perfectly, whatever. But technically, but that cut did not work. Okay. So he plays. Do I have any cutting points? Liberty problems? No. Does he? No. So just keep pushing. Push. We could have played another 1 point jump, but I don't want to talk about the habits of 1 point jumps to 1 point jump one way and then turn with another 1 point jump is usually not good shape. It leads to questionable things. So you don't want a 1 point jump into a turn 1 point jump. 1 point jumps in one direction is fine, but we'll talk more about that on the bigger boards. So for now, I 1 point jumped, no beat, and now I can 1 point jump again. But if you block, that's also fine. But I can block the next one with the tiger's mouth, so I don't have to respond to this. If you respond, it's no big deal. I'm just going to keep pushing. I'm just going to push the borders, push the borders, push the borders, push the borders. Push the borders, push the borders, block the borders. Now I'm going to block the border. No big deal. No big deal. Very, very basics. Actually, before talking about the 13 by 13, I should probably introduce life and death problems. Which, if you watch my beginner lecture series, I do talk about the introduction to, I do talk about beginner life and death shapes. But these are the basics. Cutting points, liberties, borders. All right, don't worry about that. So yeah, just block mine. Don't worry about that. Just block mine. I'm an Atari. Connect. That's a tiger's mouth, and I love my tiger's mouths. Don't have to fix. So I'm going to block here. If he played here, he would have made a point and threatened the cutting point. So this is like 2 points. And then he fills the dame, and we're done. So if you're playing Chinese rules at this level, and you're confused about if something's dead or not, go ahead and play it out. You don't lose points for playing it out at the end, but fill the dame and stuff first, and then at the end you can play it out if you're unsure. But only do that in the Chinese rules while you're learning. Once you get past this point and we get on the 19 by 19 and we change the Japanese rules, you'll lose points for playing in your own area. So learn it now is fine, but eventually we want to not play inside of our own area unless we have to. So don't have to capture these. I know they're going to die. And if he does that, I can respond. No big deal. Just trap him against the edge. And if he plays it out, that's fine. Ooh, tiger's mouth. We love our tiger's mouths because we can just capture. Just trap him against the edge. Okay, this is the last point to play, technically. It's just this dominate point. And then we're done because we looked at all the borders. There's nowhere to push. There's nowhere to lock. So we're done. There's no cutting points. A lot of tiger's mouths. I love the tiger's mouths. Very good shape at this level. He's a thinking. Right, and if he lets his timer run out, no big deal. Let's just wait. We can be patient. Patience is a very good thing to learn and go. Just be patient. Let your opponent think. It's fine. Don't rush them. It's a thinking game. You should not be rushing your opponents. He said he had to go and prepare supper. I won. Thank you. Okay. He says that, but he hasn't resigned yet, so. Oh, I forgot to say have a good game. Oh, bad Clossi. I forgot to say have a good game.
You have won.
Right. Thank you for the game. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to review this game.
Review started.
All right, let's take it from the start. Open corners, 4-4, doesn't matter. Fourth line goes down to the third line, so I made a nice little combination right here. Probably you don't want to play 4-4-4-4 like this. This is pre-peeped 1-point jump. This, you will learn this on a big board, but this shape is not good because they just push through and there's cutting points. So yeah, Knight's move is only one cutting point. It's very easy to handle like we saw. So it's a very nice combination. And yeah, if they cut, just push them to the edge like we saw. If you do this, this is kind of okay because even if they turn, you block, they turn, you block, it's still trapped against the edge. As long as you have more liberties in them, so 1, 2, 3, 4 to 1, 2, 3, 4 to 1, 2, 3. As long as you have more liberties, it's still okay. But the variation you're supposed to learn is to block and trap them against the edge. This is the variation you're supposed to learn. And this cutting point is okay, as long as you read it and it doesn't run into blackstones. So for example, if there's a blackstone right here, and he cut, then this would run into a blackstone, and that would not be okay. Then we would lose the fight. And then, if it went down and there was a blackstone right here, then we wouldn't go down. We would defend our cutting point, and we'd be okay because 4 liberties to 4 liberties. So that's okay. So no big deal. So we checked our cutting point, and we're fine. We just push him to the edge and keep him trapped. And he did try to cut. And this is why we learned this. This is actually why we practice, because we encounter this at this level, and we learn these sequences. And then we learn not to play them, and so they don't come up at higher levels. But it's still important to know the variations in your head. Just because they don't happen on the board doesn't mean the players are not reading them in their head. That is why you have to learn these sequences now rather than later. So this is good. It's a good learning experience. And he turned, and we ran away, and we were in Atari. He's in Atari, so we captured. He put us in Atari, so we connected. And then he tried to capture us, and we saw 1, 2, 3 liberties to 1, 2 liberties. 2 liberties to 1, 2, 3. So we know we're fine. There's no escape routes. He's trapped at the edge. There's no cutting points. So we know we're fine. Once we know we're fine... Oh, thank you for the sub. Thank you for your support. Once we know that we're fine, then we can start checking our opponent's weaknesses. So we always check our weaknesses first. Where's my cutting points? Where's my liberties? Am I okay? Once I'm okay, then I have the freedom to do other stuff, like check my opponent's cuts, which I did. Now, I said the opponent had a chance to win here. I believe if he had done this, this cut doesn't work because it's a ladder. So if he had done this, and you can see that, yeah, I can cut here, but he just blocks, or make a tiger's mouth. I block, he pushes, and we just walk into the edge even, or just here, or just fix your cutting point. Black will actually have a little bit more than white, I believe. I'm not sure about the Comey. But this was the chance that I saw in my head that black might have more than white. I'm actually not positive. I didn't count it. But this was the chance that black had, was to, block the borders and make it as big as possible. And yeah, this is probably the way it should have been played, where both players make territory. And if it goes along something similar, then this is fine. But you can see that my opponent didn't know the basics that we're learning, and he tried to attack my stones without checking his cutting points. Your weaknesses come before your opponent's. Otherwise, your opponent can counterattack by utilizing your weaknesses to gain more liberties. And yeah, running against the edge doesn't work. This is one of the patterns that we learn at this level. Okay, so he fixes cutting point. Very good. So now we push. We could go here because technically this cut doesn't work. It's the same sequence. And if he plays this one and cuts, it's a ladder. So it's fine. So this one would have worked. If you don't see that, that's okay. We don't have to play perfect at this level. Just play the open sides and push the borders. That's all fine. And he played here. So he probably should have blocked with like a capping move, like one space away and block. Or he could have pushed and then block. That's another sequence that he could have done. But it's fine. We don't have to play perfect at this level. 1 point jump. This one I really like because we're learning other many ways to move around the board at this level. Like how do we move? How do we move without just walking one at a time? How do we move? What are some shapes? And this is another one of those shapes. Is a 1 point jump. This one's really cool because if they play right here, you just connect. So if they peep, you connect. So it's very simple. And if they play right here to cut, then if you're in the center of the board, you can just Atari and connect. So it's a very nice sequence. But on the edge, you can actually Atari him to the edge, and he's trapped. So 1 point jumps are very nice movement. Learning how these work is also really nice. So yeah, black playing here. It does block this one, but it doesn't block this one. So maybe you can block here or here. So that way you can stop white from going in. Something like that. But it's fine. No big deal. We just keep pushing. He plays. I check my cutting point. This cutting point didn't work. Because remember I read this out. Atari, there, push. But if you saw this one, you're like, oh, I'm an Atari. I'm going to fix. That's okay. But if we read it just a little bit more and connect and then count the liberties, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, then we can read that, hey, we're okay. As long as we have these liberties, we're okay. Every time something changes, though, we have to reread it and recount the liberties. That is reading at this level. It's just reading the cutting points. That's all it is. Push them to the edge, count your liberties, watch your cutting points. That is reading at this level. Okay, that's all it is. Don't worry about any extra stuff. Don't worry about reading the rest of the game out. Don't worry about that. Just read the cutting points. Okay, and technically it's fine, but if you make the mistake, it's fine. Just connect and you over defend, it's okay. Not the end of the world. We're not trying to win every single game. We're just trying to master these basics and train our eyes. Okay. So I played. The reason I don't like this one is because this is when you get a double peep like this. Sometimes there's cutting points, or it's pushed this way. There's cutting points. In this case, it's perfectly fine, but it's a kind of a habit that I don't want you to build right now. Is this 1 point jump and then turn a 1 point jump and enable this double peep or this double threat to cut. It's very dangerous, and if you read it wrong, you can die. So it's just 1 point jump, Nobi, and then 1 point jump is kind of the better habit for now. We will add on more of this later. We'll fix it later as we learn how to read these cuts and as our reading improves. But it's not a shape I wanted you guys to mimic just yet. All right, so 1 point jumps are nice, and I just push the borders. And then once I can't push the borders, I block the borders. I was also fine ignoring this one. If you blocked this one right now, that's also fine. It's not that big of a deal. But I knew that if he pushed, I could still block with a tiger's mouth, so there's no cutting point. So I knew I was already blocking, so I could keep pushing. And that's fine. And then I ran out of stuff, so I just blocked. He could go here and threaten this cutting point, so I'd have to fix. And then he could push and then push, and Atari. And that's probably a way he can finish the game. So pushing borders, threatening cutting points. But here he's worried about his life and death. Technically, making a second eye here is better, and we'll talk about eyes here in a minute. But this is probably what he was worried about, is his life and death. It's fine. And that's a tiger's mouth, so we don't have to fix the second line cut. So I push here, and technically he should play here, and the game's done. All right, so someone is asking what I mean about not now. So reading this double peep, the idea is I don't want you to play this 1 point jump and 1 point jump and only read one of the cutting points. So when we learn more about peeps and stuff and checking our cutting points and the strengths and weaknesses of 1 point jump on the 19x19, then we can say when we can do a side 1 point jump like this, when we read the peeps and read all the cuts. When you can do that, you can do this. Okay, but if you can't, or if you have trouble reading peeps and cuts, then don't create more cuts to read, right? If just worry about one point jump right now, and then when you understand how this peep and fix works, then you can add on more, right? But instead of like adding on, if we're learning how one point jump works, why do we want to add on 2 and a double peep, which is going to create more cutting points to read when we're still learning how to read these cutting points? Once you know how to read the cutting points, yeah, you just add this on and you say, okay, read it out. It's fine. Yeah, I can do it. But if you're learning how to read the cutting points, then why play a shape with more cutting points and give yourself more work to do? Learn things one at a time. And so this one you can learn after you get cutting points down. But the idea is 1 point jumps are a safe way to move. We'll learn more about it as we get stronger. But right now it's just focusing on cutting points, and that's why I was like, oh, I don't want to do multiple 1 point jumps just yet. We're still working on cutting points. Once we get that down, we can talk more about that. So yeah, and then the game was just finished. And he tried to play. We just block him to the edge. Tiger's mounts are great. You just eat the stone. This one, it looks like there's a cut, but actually that's a self-Atari. And black's in Atari. So it's okay to block. And if he fixes, we can just capture. So it's fine. No big deal. All right, and that will conclude our 9x9 games. So I think we played about 5 of these at the 25Q level and talked about borders and cuts, and basically how to play on the 9x9. If you can finish a game and see your cuts, see your liberties, and you have these basic cutting sequences down, and you're not just getting surprised by cutting points and just dying, or you're getting 0 points of territory. As long as you're getting some territory, even if you lose, if you're getting some territory, you're watching your cuts, and you're not dying, then you're doing good, and I think you're ready to move on. The last note that might come up is a little bit difficult to show on the 9x9, I think, but it is something that a lot of players will have to learn. It's eyes. So we're going to conclude the 9x9 with eyes. What an eye is basically a point like this, where if your opponent plays inside, they have 0 liberties. 0 liberties. Okay? So an eye is an illegal move for your opponent to play. The exception to that is if you are capturing something, then you can play inside of an eye because your opponent's liberties are counted first. So you remove the stone, and now you can see you have a liberty. Now, this is an infinite repeating sequence. So this is called a ko. If you haven't learned about kos yet, I'll go ahead and just explain really quickly. Ko is basically states that the board cannot repeat itself on the last turn, as it did on the last turn or whatever. So if I take, you can't make the board look exactly as it did on my last turn. You have to change something. So you have to go maybe play a forcing move, which is known as a ko threat, and force them to respond. Then you can come back and take. Okay, that's a ko fight for whoever's going to take this ko and keep it. But you can play a ko threat, and that's basically the simple version, the quick version of a ko. But it's basically the board can't. You don't have to play the exact same position right on your next turn. That's the ko rule. That prevents an infinite loop. So that's fat. So again, back to eyes. So if you have one eye and your opponent takes your outside liberties, and we'll go ahead and set this up. If we have one eye and all the outside liberties are taken. So this is an eye because it's still like a move with the opponent has 0 liberties. If all the outside liberties are taken, we can still get captured. So how do we survive? Okay, how do we survive? Well, we need 2 liberties that our opponent cannot play. Or in other words, 2 eyes. So let's take this one. Let's try this one. We have 2 liberties. Is that an eye? Well, let's find out. If our opponent plays right here, it's not an illegal move because white has 1 liberty. But we can capture it. Uh-oh. That's an eye. It's only 1 liberty. Capture. Same if I play right here. Okay, 1 liberty. I capture 1 eye. Boom. So 2 in a row is only 1 I. So just because it's 2 liberties doesn't necessarily mean it's 2 I's. So we need 2 I's, not just 2 liberties. So what about here? 3 in a row is kind of the magic one. Because if black plays right here, you can see that if white plays right here, 0 liberties. White plays right here, 0 liberties. White cannot take both liberties at the same time, so black is alive and it is impossible to kill this black group. Black has 2 liberties. You cannot take them both at the same time, so it is alive with 2 I's. The only way it dies is if you fill your own liberties, which I have seen some people do, is if you fill your own I's, then you get captured. But as long as you don't fill your own I's, unless it's like a cutting point or something, then you're good, right? So you need 2 I's to survive. Now here's the pitfall though. Some people don't realize that they might have what is called a false eye. So let's put a white stone right here. This looks like 2 I's, but actually the A stone has 1 liberty because it's not connected. So I can play right here because I have a liberty and capture something, and then I can play the I. So the problem with this one is it's called a false eye, which means an eye that I can put something on the outside into Atari and force you to fill, and then it reduces it down to whatever it is. So be very wary of false eyes, but in other words, this is basically eyes. Okay. In order to learn more about eyes, check out the beginner lecture series. I have a whole video on the different beginner eye shapes or patterns that you should learn. So I'm not going to repeat the information here, but I do have a video over beginner life and deaths. Just check out the beginner lecture series and look at the video on life and death problems or life and death. And that is how you can learn some beginner shapes for life and death. But this is the basics of how it works, is these are eyes, and you need 2 I's to live. So when you're invading your opponent's stuff, which we'll talk about more on the 13 by 13, you need enough I space or enough space that you're surrounding to make a 2 I shape. Okay, so that is life and death. That is how you determine if something can or can't be captured. But that is a little bit more high level. If you don't understand this right off the bat, that's okay. Just understand that if something is inside of your area of control, or if you're inside of their area of control, and you are cut off and surrounded and you cannot escape, then you need space, or in other words, eye space, to try to make 2 I's to live. And the shapes that you need, or the amount of space that you need, you can look at the beginner lecture series, and that will show you some eye shapes. But that will be it for my 9x9 section on the the Clossi Approach series for 25 to 20 Qs sections. This is the 9x9 basics. So this is the game 5, and then last little tidbit on life and death. So hopefully you guys did find that helpful. The next Clossi Approach series video will be introducing the 13 by 13 and then playing on the 13 by 13 and showing how we can do that. Learn some more basics, and then once we get the 13 by 13 down, we'll start talking about 19Q to 15Q on the 19 by 19 and learning how to play on that. So more on that in future videos and future streams. So hopefully you guys did enjoy this, and as always, thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time on YouTube and on Twitch. That will conclude today's stream. We did our game reviews, and we did the Clossi Approach videos. And yeah, if anyone wants to help me edit these videos, it's really simple edits. It's just a lot of time consuming. It's really simple edits, just cutting these. If anyone wants to help with that, I would greatly appreciate it. But I will have these up on YouTube soonish, within the next couple weeks. And yeah, hopefully you guys are enjoying that. For the old Clossi Approach videos, check out the VODs in my profile, I think, down below. And yeah, so quick shout outs for the end of the stream, and then we'll go raid someone. Alright, so hopefully you guys enjoyed the stream today. Hopefully you found it helpful and educational. As always, thanks to all the supporters who support the stream. If you want to support the stream, click the sub button down below to be eligible to join the sub game review days. 1 day a week is open reviews, but where anyone can join. It is a queue, first come, first serve. But sub days are every day but that day. So 4 days a week I do game reviews. One of those is open. The other 3 are sub reviews. And if you sub, you can join those queues, and it'll be a first come first serve basis and get your games reviewed. If you would like dedicated game reviews, or if you want to actually before I go that, if you want to support the community and support others in the chat being able to get game reviews, and help me reach my goal of 118 subs to get minimum wage for the amount of time that I do game reviews. If you want to support, you can donate subs to the chat. And yesterday I decided that I'm going to give the highest sub gifter a lesson. At the end of the month, I will figure out who's in the first place, and I will give them a lesson. This one is more like a thank you to those who support the chat community and also support my teaching. I know you don't get a lot for gift subs personally. It's just a lot of support. So that is sort of my thank you. I wish I could give you all the gift subbers lessons and stuff, but I'm really booked on lessons. So that is my small gift back to that. So we came up with that yesterday. For those who want dedicated, thank you for the sub. For those who want dedicated, game reviews, check out Patreon. I also offer lessons, which are currently booked right now, but I am planning to potentially open up another couple slots in January or February. So if you would want the announcement for that, you can support at $5 a month, or you can join the waiting list for free. And I will send out an announcement to everyone when I open up slots, or when a slot opens up for private lessons. I will send announcements, and it'll just be first come first serve. Unfortunately, I am getting really booked on lessons, which is a great thing. It lets me do what I do and teach you guys 4 days a week, like full time for a living. So thanks to everyone who supports on Patreon. I greatly appreciate it. It allows me to teach the community as much as I do and do this for a living. And I'm very ecstatic that I can do this. Very excited and very thankful to all of you guys for your support. And Patreon is what you can do. There's several tiers on there, but you can get dedicated game reviews, or you can sign up on the waiting list for private lessons. And the last little tip, I have 2 more of the 100 AI Joseki's book written by a Korean pro. It is in English. You can buy these from me. I have 2 left before I restock in January, February. I'm not sure. I have a few things to fix in the house before I can restock. These are being sold first come first serve. They're $45 for the U.S. Mexico and Canada is anywhere from $50 to $60 depending on shipping and handling. $45 for the U.S. does include shipping because I can send book rate. And yeah, if you're interested in that, they do have English commentary and blah blah blah. That is it for my announcements. Thanks everyone for watching, and thank you for your support. The last little thing, if you don't want to support financially, but you want to just still get game reviews, there are ways to do that. You can join the once a week queue where I do opening reviews, or you can save up Clossi points by just watching the stream, and you can save up and get a lesson or a game review, which skips the queue, and you can utilize those on any day of the week that I'm streaming during the game review sessions. Sub reviews is fine if you're not a sub, if you have the points. So that's a good way to do it for free. If you are unable to support and you just want to support by watching, I greatly appreciate that as well. I want to help as many people as I can, but unfortunately, I'm only one guy, so I have to prioritize somehow. So I still want to teach you, even if you are not able to support financially, it's okay. I understand, it's fine. I still want to teach you and help you improve your game. So yeah, that's another way you can do that. Fundamentals of Go or second book of Go. Fundamentals of Go. The problem with the second book of Go is it's good for a brand new player, but that's it. Like after that, it's kind of not great. Honestly, I would watch a How to Play Go series or a playlist like on a certain someone channel. So I don't worry about the second book of Go too much. It's a good book. Like if you can get it, I mean, sure, why not, right? It's more information. But Fundamentals of Go is a lot of good stuff. It's a little bit high level for a brand new player. For brand new players, honestly, I would say the Elementary Go series or the Get Strong series. Both of those are fantastic once you're on the 19x19. So I'm doing the Clossi Approach series to like teach you the basics of cutting points and stuff like that to get to the 19x19, and then I have the beginner lecture series for how to play on the 19x19. But the Elementary Go series and the Get Strong series are both really good book series for a double-digit Q player. If you can do everything in those series, you're a single digit Q. Now, with that being said, Fundamentals of Go is a very, very good book. It teaches a lot of fundamentals. So I highly encourage that. I think everyone should have that. It's a very good book. It's one of my favorites. So I do encourage Fundamentals of Go. However, it might be a little high level for a new player. If you're also looking at the second book of Go, Fundamentals of Go is probably not going to be good for brand new player, but it's going to be better long term. Yeah, so hopefully that answers your question.